to Tennessee's at-home learning series for literacy. Today's lesson is for all fourth graders out there, though all children are welcome to tune in. This lesson is the first in this week's series. My name is Valencia Smith, and I'm a fourth grade teacher at Venus Stewart Elementary in Gallatin, Tennessee. I'm so excited to be your teacher for this lesson. Welcome to my virtual classroom. If you didn't see our previous lessons, you can find them at www.tn.gov/education. You can still tune in to today's lesson if you haven't seen any of the others. Today, we will be reading a poem by William Blake, and we'll continue with the poem for the rest of the lesson sets. Before we get started, to participate fully in our lesson today, you will need 2 pieces of paper, a pencil, and a surface to write on. You can also get the student packet for ELA Grade 4 Lesson 11 at www.tn.gov/education. If you joined me for our second set of lessons, you might remember that we read a story, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, a famous story written by Washington Irving. The Legend of Sleepy Hollow was post-set or after the Revolutionary War. The Revolutionary War was between the American colonists and Great Britain. The colonists were people who left Great Britain, settled in America, and made it their home. The colonists wanted to be separate and form a new country, what we call today the United States. Great Britain believed that the Americans should still be a part of Great Britain. So the colonists rose up and fought against Great Britain, and Great Britain fought back, causing the Revolutionary War. The colonists eventually won the war and became free from Great Britain. The poem we'll be using for this set of lessons is also set post the Revolutionary War. The war ended in 1783, and this poem was written in 1789, 6 years post or after the war. Knowing this text was written during this time period helps us to think about some things that were going on. We can even use the Legend of Sleepy Hollow to help us. There were no cars. People traveled by horseback or carriage pulled by horses. Children typically attended schools in one-room schoolhouses that were in their own communities. People did not have electricity, but instead they used candles for lighting or gas lamps. Before we begin, let's talk a bit about the author William Blake. Blake did not live in America. Instead, he lived in England, which was part of Great Britain. So he lived in the country that the American colonists were fighting against. Mr. Blake is a very famous poet who made his living by being an engraver. Engraving was a way of printing something in the late 1700s. He wrote The Echoing Green, the poem we are going to study, when he was about 32 years old. If you enjoy this poem, you can find his poems on the internet or in your local library. Just like our second set of lessons, we will use one text. This set of 5 lessons will be focused on William Blake's poem. By focusing on the poem for several lessons, we will have time to think deeply about the poem. In this lesson, we will focus on just understanding the text and using that understanding to summarize the poem at the end of today's lesson. As we move through the poem today, I will help you make meaning of words William Blake used to create the poem. Then, there will be time for you to practice thinking about the meaning of the poem by engaging in writing on your own with my support. Finally, I will assign you independent work that you can complete after the video ends. This is the same structure we followed in the first 2 sets of lessons. During our reading today, we will capture details about the characters and setting of the poem. Go ahead and write The Echoing Green by William Blake at the top of one sheet. I also want you to copy this chart. We will use it as we read the poem. If you have a copy of the poem, you can use it as we read together. If not, just follow along with me on the charts I have created. Each day, we will read the poem all the way through at the beginning of the lesson. You will be surprised about how much you learn about the poem in each lesson and how what we learn together will change the way you understand the poem. Today, as we read through the first time, you may not understand all the words or the meaning, but don't worry. Our time together will be spent making sense of the words. Just think, you might even have the poem memorized by the end of the week. The Echoing Green by William Blake. The sun does arise and make happy the skies. The merry bells ring to welcome the spring. The skylark and thrush, the birds of the bush, sing louder around to the bell's cheerful sound, while our sports shall be seen on the echoing green. Old John with white hair does laugh away care, sitting under the oak among the old folk. They laugh at our play, and soon they will say, such were the joys when we were all girls and boys. In our youth, time were seen on the echoing green. To the little ones weary, no one can be merry. Weary, no one can be merry. The sun does descend, and our sports have an end. Round the laps of their mothers, many sisters and brothers, like birds in their nests, are ready for rest. And sport no more seen on the darkening green. Now, just like other types of writing, poetry can have characters, and this one does. The first question I want you to consider is, who are the characters in the echoing green and what are they doing? We're going to look at this stanza by stanza. A stanza is the way words are grouped in a poem, similar to how paragraphs are ways we group words in essays or stories. In this poem, we have 3 stanzas. I have written each stanza on a different piece of paper so it will be easier for us to discuss. I'm going to reread the first stanza. Remember, you are listening for who are the characters and what are they doing. We're going to first analyze each stanza for characters and then later for the setting. The sun does arise and make happy the skies. The merry or happy bells ring to welcome the spring. The lark and thrush, the birds of the bush, sing louder around to the bell's cheerful sound, while our sports shall be seen on the echoing green. What words did you write? I heard the words skylark and thrush, which I can use context clues to help me determine our types of birds, because the next line says the birds of the bush. On my chart, I'm going to write birds sing. So for stanza 1, we're going to write birds and sing. I want to point out the use of the word our. While our sports shall be seen. The author is including himself in the scene by using this word, so we know we have a narrator of the poem. Let's add to our chart the word narrator. And it sounds like the narrator is playing sports, so we'll write that. Now, let's look at these first 2 lines again. This one is a bit trickier. They read, the sun does arise or go up and makes happy the skies. First off, what do you notice about the capitalization in these 2 lines? I think it's interesting that the author capitalizes the word sun like it's a proper noun or a specific name. Do you remember talking about the word personification in school? Do you remember the meaning? Very good. Personification is giving lifelike qualities to something that is not alive. The way William Blake has written this is almost like the sun is lifelike because he's saying the sun arises and makes the skies happy. So let's add that to our chart. Sun arises and makes skies happy. I'm also going to put the word arise and its meaning underneath. Arise means to go up, and I'm going to write that in blue. Now, reread stanza 2. Again, you're listening for characters and what they are doing. I'm going to read it, and you take notes as I read. Old John with white hair does laugh away care, sitting under the oak among the old folk. They laugh at our play, and soon they all say, such were the joys when we were all girls and boys. In our youth time were seen on the echoing green. What characters did you hear in this stanza? I immediately heard Old John. So let's add that to our chart. And did you hear what Old John was doing? Very good. Laughing away care and sitting under the oak. Let's write both of those. And an oak is a type of tree. Now, did you write down any other characters from that stanza? That's right. We've got to add the girls and boys. And it's a little bit trickier to determine what they are doing. We have to read back a few lines to figure it out. So here we have girls and boys. Here it says, they laugh at our play. So that tells me that the girls and boys must be playing. Let's add that to our chart. Boys and girls playing. Hmm. We read another action word, laugh. They laugh at our play. So who is they in that sentence? I have to go back a line again to figure it out. Among the old folk helps us know the ones laughing are the old folk. Have you heard this word before? Good. Folk is another name for people. In this poem, it would be like saying among the old people. On our chart, I'm going to add the word people next to old folk. And on this one, I'm going to put old folk and they're laughing. Now, this is a good place to talk about the title. What do you think green means as it is used in the title? Because the children are playing in an open field, I think green might just be another name for the open field because the field is green in color. At the top of my chart by the title, I'm going to add the definition of green as open field on my book. Now to the last stanza. Be sure to listen for the characters and what they are doing. To the little ones weary, no more can be merry. The sun does descend, and our sports have an end. Round the laps of their mothers, many sisters and brothers, like birds in their nests, are ready for rest. And sport no more seen on the darkening green. I think clarifying the meaning of two words will help us to understand this stanza a little bit better. So beside the word weary, I'm going to write tired. And beside merry, I'm going to write the word happy. Now, what did you hear the mother doing? Again, I have to do a little bit of inferring here because I know the children like to sit in the laps of their mothers. I think the mother is holding the children. So on my chart, I'm going to write mothers and then holding children. And I suppose if we add the mothers as characters, the sisters and brothers are characters too. But what are they doing? It says round the laps of their mothers. So I think they have gone to their mother's laps. We can add that too. Brothers and sisters around mother's lap. Wow, look at all the characters and the actions in this short poem. I hope you're able to start visualizing the action that is taking place. So let's look at all of our characters. Birds sing, narrator playing sports, sun arises, makes skies happy, old John laughing away care and sitting under the oak, boys and girls playing, old folk laughing, mothers holding children, and brothers and sisters around mother's lap. Now, I'm going to go back to stanza 2 with a different purpose. I want you to think about who is speaking in such were the joys when we were all girls and boys. In our youth time were seen on the echoing green. Let's read the whole stanza. Old John with white hair does laugh away care, sitting under the oak among the old folk. They laugh at our play, and soon they will say, such were the joys when we all, girls and boys, in our youth time were seen on the echoing green. I want you to notice the line, and soon they all say. While the author does not use quotation marks, the next 4 lines are actually someone speaking. On my chart, I'm going to add quotation marks in blue so I remember that someone is speaking, even though the author did not add marks. Now, how do we know the character speaking in lines 17 through 20 is different from the character who is narrating the poem? A clue for me is the word they. It is someone else. The narrator is not including themselves by using the word they. So let's underline the word they. I'm going to underline this as a reminder that it's someone other than the narrator talking. But who is they? Very good. They are the old folk. So I'm going to draw an arrow from they to the old folk. Now, if we know they is someone else, who is we in the poem? We are all girls and boys. Read this line and see if you can tell who we is. Very good. I think we is the girls and boys because sometimes the authors rename something right after naming it. This is called a positive. The author says we all, places a comma, and then says girls and boys. Because of this, I know that we is the girls and boys. I'm going to underline them together to help us remember who we is. We're underlining we, girls and boys, and draw that arrow. Now, so far, we've talked about how the pronouns they and we have helped us understand more about who the poem is about. I want us now to look at the pronoun our. In our youth, we're seeing. Who is our referring to? Remember, in this section being spoken, I placed a quotation mark so we could remember, because this is the part where they are speaking. I realize that our is the old folk. So I'm going to underline our and draw an arrow to old folk to help me remember the meaning of the pronoun. We have thought about the characters. Now let's think about the setting of the poem. There are lots of clues about the setting, the time and the place of the poem. I want you to reread the first stanza out loud to yourself. And as you read, think about what keywords or phrases describe where and when the poem takes place. What did you notice? Take a moment to jot down your thoughts in this section of our chart. Very good. I heard the sun does arise. I can determine that it is morning because the sun is rising. And I know the sun starts low in the morning and rises as the day progresses. I'm going to add morning to our setting for stanza 1 because this gives me information about the time of day. What about where stanza 1 takes place? What did you read? Because the children are playing sports, they must be in an open field or space. So let's add that to our chart. Open field or space. Now, I want you to reread stanza 2 out loud. Remember, as you read, think about what the keywords or phrases describe, what keywords or phrases describe where and when this poem takes place. What did you read that helped you understand the setting? Jot down your ideas on your chart paper in this section on the chart. The line, they laughed at our play, gives me a clue. The action is still occurring on the open space or field because the boys and girls are playing. From where are the old folks listening? I see they are sitting under the oak tree. How does that help you visualize the setting? In my head, I'm envisioning a large space with several trees nearby because we also have the clue that birds were singing from stanza 1. So on my chart, I'm going to add same fields and nearby trees. I bet you know what's next. Let's look at stanza 3 for setting. Again, I want you to read the stanza by yourself and think about the clues for the setting. Let's talk about the word descend. It is important to understand this word so we have a better understanding of the setting. The word descend means to go down. I'm going to add a note in blue on the chart to help us remember this word. Now, how does descend help us understand the setting? If the sun is descending, it must be going down or setting. From that line, I can infer that it is late in the evening or the end of the day. So let's add that to our chart, late in the evening. Look at our chart. Hmm. What did you notice about where the poem takes place? I noticed that it stayed the same on the field. What happens to the when it takes place? It seems like it occurs over a day because the sun is rising in the morning in our first stanza and it's setting in the last stanza. Wow, look at all that we've learned about the echoing green today. We have thought deeply about how William Blake is providing us with details about the characters and setting. Now I want us to prepare to write about what we have captured. If you remember, I said we were going to summarize the poem from our notes. Notice that our chart sets up our paragraph rather nicely. We have each stanza and the characters and setting from each stanza. We can work our way through the chart to create our paragraph. We need to start with our opening sentence. Look at the chart and think, how might we open a paragraph if we were going to summarize it? Write down your thoughts at the bottom of the chart. Here's what I thought. Echoing Green is a poem written by William Blake. Now we need to look at our information about the characters in stanza 1. Say it aloud how you might summarize the characters. I wrote, in stanza 1, 2 characters are introduced, the rising sun and singing birds. Now we need to write about the setting. How might you write a sentence about the setting in stanza 2? Write your thoughts on your paper. Good. The setting takes place in a large field in the morning. Guess what? You get to write now. You will finish writing about the characters and setting of stanzas 2 and 3 using the chart we created. For your independent practice, I want you to write a summary of the poem, The Echoing Green by William Blake. Think about how Blake describes the character and setting of each stanza in the poem. Be sure to use specific examples from the poem. Include an introduction and conclusion to your summary and consider how you link your thoughts together. When you are finished, use the summary to illustrate the poem from the details provided by William Blake. As always, boys and girls, I enjoyed reading The Echoing Green with you today. Thank you for inviting me into your home. I look forward to seeing you in our next lesson in Tennessee's At Home Learning Series. Bye-bye.